Hey guys, and welcome back. Just want to, as I mentioned in the last video, give a brief introduction to things such as the Power Platform itself and the Power Platform Admin Center before we get into the specific administration settings that I want to run through in this series. In the last video, as I said, I showed the basics of the Power Platform and the Power Platform portal. And this one is essentially going to be the same thing carried forward for the admin center. Now, you can access the admin center through make.powerapps.com quite easily by selecting the cog in the top right hand corner and then selecting admin center. And this will open up a new tab and take you to the URL admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. Now, a couple of things to be aware of. There are several permission settings that would allow you to get into the Power Platform Admin Center. But the key one that you're going to want is Power Platform Administrator. You can get through into it via things such as Global Admin and even certain environment level roles such as system administrator give you some level of access to administration settings, but not to bog down in the details. As long as you've got Power Platform Administrator, you're going to be able to get through to the Power Platform Admin Center. So what is the Power Platform Admin Center? So it's essentially the main interface that you're going to want to use to interact with administrative settings within the Power Platform, funnily enough, as the name suggests. So it gives you a unified center to manage everything within the Power Platform. So the key area that you're going to be interacting with is probably the manage section for that's environments. So this allows you to go into specific environments and edit individual settings about that environment. But you can also set kind of tenant-wide settings for the Power Platform also within this portal. So you can set kind of global security settings for Power Platform as a whole. You can set up various licensing for different applications, and you can also monitor the experience. So see who's using what kind of at a global level. But for the most part, as I mentioned, you'll be going through into the individual environment settings and setting things there. So think of this as basically a unified interface for administering the Power Platform. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky because there are mechanisms that you can apply settings to an individual environment, but you can also have them kind of tenant-wide, so things that kind of supersede the individual environment settings and are applied on a tenant level. And that can be done through a variety of mechanisms, such as the settings that I said along the left-hand side here, but also through things such as environment groups, which we'll get into a little bit later in the series, which essentially allows you to group environments together and apply governance and settings across those environments as a group, as opposed to having to set things individually. So these, as I mentioned, are all things that we're going to run through in a lot more detail throughout the series. But I just wanted to give a very brief introduction as to the admin center for Power Platform, the kind of things that you can look at. The homepage has got a bunch of useful documentation. So yeah, if you can bear my voice for a little bit longer, we'll talk a little bit in the next episode about kind of tenant-wide settings, and then we'll actually finally get into some interesting bits and pieces and run through kind of a setting by setting basis, how to set things up, what you might use it for, and what the best practice is around that. So cheers for listening.